You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All righty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and I am joined, as always, by your co-host, Kevin. Alex has got that whole JOB thing going on again tonight, so he's not going to be able to join us. But, Kevin, how are we doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. So, missed the Friday show. I apologize. I was in Sin City trying to soak it all in, but it had a good time. I'm glad to be back, right? Talking football here, heading into week 8. We are in, right in the middle of bye weeks. We have some more injuries. We have obviously the trade news that I missed talking with you about on Friday with McCaffrey. So a whole bunch of things that are making this fantasy season more and more interesting.
Yeah, it's it has been an interesting one there. We're kind of officially in that halfway through the season point of that. So it has been interesting. It has been a little bit surprising at some points. It's been par for the course in other aspects, but we continue to kind of march on here, and we're kind of, again, at the halfway point of the season for most fantasy leagues. Hopefully you're sitting at 4-3 or better and ready to make a run. And if you're sitting below that, hopefully you have been making some moves and doing what you need to do in order to get some things rocking and rolling there. But we do have a great show for you tonight. We are going to hit up some waiver wire. We're going to hit up the Thursday night preview there, play some monkey knife fight touchdown dance there, obviously. And of course, we are going to be doing a whole lot of mailbag tonight. So if you've got questions, you've got comments, all of that good stuff, throw it in the comments here. Let's go ahead and chat that out there. If you're watching on the Twitter side of things, we'll get to those comments. It does take us a little bit longer for those to come in. I can't put them on the screen there. So I tell everybody to head over to YouTube. You can chat along with us over there. We can display the comments, walk through it. It's a little bit easier for everybody that way there. But Kevin, what were some of your big takeaways from this weekend? Obviously we didn't talk much about the CMC trade. You also had Elijah Moore kind of sit this weekend out after requesting a trade and kind of getting denied that one. What were some of your takeaways this weekend?
The Broncos suck. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
Looked the same regardless of who the quarterback was, though.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the only thing. Yeah, we just saw more Jerry Jeudy and less Cortland Sutton.
Right.
Good night. So no, there's that. The Steelers game, the Steelers Dolphins game was really fun. Really fun. Like, we are seeing George Pickens emerge, right? And we talked about this guy back during dynasty rookie draft season, and then as redraft season kind of came up, we didn't talk about him quite as much, but he's starting to come into his own. Him and Kenny Pickett do have some chemistry there. So if you're looking for wide receiver depth that may not cost you as much, right, you're just trying to improve your wide receiver 3 or something of that nature, George Pickens isn't a bad option that you can probably get a little bit less expensive than some other guys that you might be looking to try and fill that role. So an idea there, if you're going up against the injury bug, you have either of the Chargers wide receivers who happen to also be on bye this week, any number of Chiefs players that are on bye this week, all those things. So it's just something to look after. I learned that the Patriots, I guess, aren't very good at defense this year. Like, they got stinking stomped last night. So, there was that. And football's not quite as fun without Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, right? Like, I learned that too. Like, that was a big week. That was a big week of buys. So if you managed to get through that week with a win, kudos for you, because you had a ton of high-profile names on bye last week. And then with the Chiefs on bye, kind of headlighting the teams this week, you have another big group of names, right, with Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Even Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's been a solid RB2 to flex play for you this year. So another week of, tough bye weeks, and we march along, right?
Right. And one of those that, if you were one of the folks that got a win this last week, you could be one of those folks that doesn't, manage to, not have any of those players on there, which, that may have been a welcome sight for you, not having to go up against some of those guys this past week. So,
Yeah.
but no, I agree with you. It's a little rough when you got that much star power, especially in fantasy football, sitting on the sidelines all on 1 week because of buys on that one. So hopefully going forward, we don't have some of those same issues, but we shall see.
It's just 1 week, right? And part of that you expect. We talk about that when we're drafting, right? I'm not paying attention to bye weeks when I'm drafting. I got into it. I navigated this week. Listen, I in our home league, right? I had Cousins, Jefferson, Hurts, and Singletary, who I think there might have been one more. Nah, that was the big one. Like, that were all on buys, right? Like, and I managed to pull out a win. Luckily, I was going against a team that's been kind of riddled with injuries this year, and yes, it helps. But I was lucky. But I piled all these guys up. So now, guess what? I get to roll Hurts and Jefferson specifically out every single week without any worries. I can spell in Singletary where I need to, and we're off and running. I at least have a core base of my lineup that I'm already done with, and I'm off and running.
I like it. We do have a couple of comments in the chat here, so let's go ahead and hit some of these things, and before we start moving down the road here a little bit. But guys, again, if you have any questions, any comments, just want to say, hey, throw it in the chat. Let's go ahead and talk. Let's converse here. Leadership saying, let's go, boys. Ready for week 8. Absolutely. Spear IT in the chat saying, what's up, guys? How's y'all's night? Can't be better. We're getting a chance to talk some football. Always a lot of fun. The Stacks app in there saying they're ready for the waiver wire tonight. That sounds like that's where they want to go.
Aren't we all?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Mr. COD Reaper in the chat there giving us the update on his team so far. Week 7 recap. He registered the second highest point total this week. Came in the win and back and forth lead changes a few different times. He ends up pulling out the win there. He's got, quite a few weeks here where Justin Herbert leads the scoring for him for 4 consecutive weeks. He's climbed up to 7th. Remember, he started off, really, really kind of hurting there, but has moved to 3 and 4. And he is this week taking on the 4th ranked team, ranked at 4 and 3. So pulling out a W could get you back to 500 and move you up the standings there quite a bit too. So good job, Mr. Reaper. I know that was something that you were kind of worried about looking into that, when we were talking on week 3, week 4, back on some of those episodes there. But it sounds like you've done a great job maneuvering the wire, maneuvering some deals there, and really kind of getting into that one. But he does have a question about what to do on his waiver here. So Robert Tonyan, Taysom Hill, Evan Ingram, Mike Gesicki, Irv Smith, Dawson Knox, K. Dotton are all on the waiver wire. Who should he pick up since he's got the Njoku injured?
I would go Irv Smith first off of this list. I don't like the Tonyan matchup against Buffalo. I don't like the Ingram matchup against Denver. I don't like Gesicki with Tua playing. Knox is a flyer. A guy. There's a couple guys to be looking at, honestly. Harrison Bryant, the tight end in Cleveland, who is going to be filling in for David Njoku, is really going to see, excuse me, is probably going to see about 90% of the targets that would have gone to Njoku anyway. Like, there's some thought that Donovan Peoples-Jones might capture a couple of those targets. Maybe Amari Cooper gets one more, but some of those plays have just been designed for the tight end. It's how this offense runs. So with that, Harrison Bryant is a sure-handed tight end. Like, he's just playing behind a better athlete in David Njoku. So that's also an option that you can kind of carry out. And he's going to be, useful each week. He has a safe floor, but the way this Cleveland offense is looking at. So I think that's a guy that you really need to pay attention to. If you're feeling ballsy, Greg Dulcich from Denver has seen back-to-back weeks where he's been involved with the offense. The problem is it's Denver's offense, right? Like it's not pretty, it's not exciting. Like you're hoping for, 4 or 5 catches and 45 yards, right? You're hoping for 9 points. That's really what you're after. But I think between those three, Irv Smith, Harrison Bryant, David Njoku, are probably all. I think those are probably my list of tight ends for this week. Taysom Hill's always an interesting option, but typically you see less Taysom Hill with Jameis Winston back, and Jameis should be playing for the Saints this week. So I do think Taysom Hill probably takes a step back. Also, I think Alvin Kamara does as well. So I think those are things to be looking out for.
A guy down there in New Orleans, though, that I don't, another tight end there that we didn't mention was Juwan Johnson, coming off of his big week where he finished tight end 2 last week. I do think a lot of that had to do with some Andy Dalton there, but he has been getting some targets, and they have been designed plays to go to the tight end there a little bit. So definitely a dart throw. Hard to replicate those 2 weeks in a row, or 2 weeks in a row of elite tight end finish on a week for you. But that's another guy that you could probably go through. But I'm right there with you. The first name jumps, first name as far as jumps to mind as far as a streaming tight end on this one is going to be Harrison Bryant. That was a guy that, like you said, he's a sure-handed guy, and that's Njoku is a really good run blocker, and they tend to keep him in there more so. Harrison Bryant is a much more of a pass catching type of guy than he is a run blocking tight end. So I could see him getting some play there. And I do like the Irv Smith matchup certainly this week as well. So that's how we're kind of rolling on that one, Mr. COD Reaper. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for tuning in here. Madeline saying, hey guys, how you doing, Madeline? And Jaden over on YouTube says he can't believe that they can't believe that they're asking this, but Najee or Foreman this week.
Oh man, heavy hitters coming out already. I
do have thoughts on Foreman later on when we get into some pines and shines.
Yeah, and I don't mind Deonta Foreman this week, right? Like, oh my gosh, sorry, my screen is going to poop here on me. I don't mind Foreman this week. It just feels ugly, but a lot of running backs in general just kind of feel ugly this week. Why am I not seeing Carolina's matchup this week, Derek? Who we got?
Atlanta. It's a hot matchup. Atlanta is who they're going.
Oh, here we go.
Against.
On the road at Atlanta. They're fighting for like a division lead here, guys. Like
right.
This is crazy. I'm not going to buy it. Actually, Atlanta's run defense has actually been pretty good. It's their passing defense that's been terrible. Right. Terrible. So I do think that that's kind of where I lean, because Atlanta's been much better against the run. They're at home. It should be a tightly contested game. Right. Like, I don't know if it's going to be a great game, but it should be a tightly contested game. And as for Najee, we saw how 2 weeks ago, right, how Zeke was able to kind of get some things going, maybe show some chinks in the armor there. And if Kenny Pickett can keep moving the ball, at least with a little bit of consistency, teams are going to back off a little bit, right? The more Kenny Pickett can show that he can drive the ball down the field and find Deontay Johnson, Kenny Pickett, and Chase Claypool, they'll back off. But man, that Eagles defense is so good. I'm going to tell you Foreman. I did a lot of rambling just to tell you. I'm going to tell you Foreman by a hair. but I do think that there's a chance that Najee might be able to sneak into the end zone and just inch him out. But I think your floor is safer with Deonta Foreman this week.
Gotcha. Let's say I would actually argue that the floor is probably a little safer with Najee, just from the standpoint that he'll get first, second, and third down work on that one, more so than what we've seen Deonta Foreman do. I think Deonta Foreman's going to be easily get kind of first, second down work, and then Chuba Hubbard's going to come in on a lot of the third down work there. So Philly has been incredibly tough. That front seven of that defense is nasty. And you're right, Atlanta has been tough against the I guess tough isn't necessarily the right word to use. They've been average against the run. They're giving up the 15th most points to opposing running backs. So they're kind of right there middle of the pack on that one, but their defense gives up the second most points overall. So that's one of those that you could see Carolina get, keep drives alive, keep the ball moving, be able to put some points in the end zone. So I think that you're going to see more points, more opportunity for points scored in that Atlanta and Carolina game than you're going to see in that Pittsburgh and Philly game. But I do think that Najee has more runway, more opportunities on that, right? Like I think we're going to see him get 20 touches a game, whereas I think that you're going to see Deonta Foreman get maybe 15 touches a game here, or in his matchup there. It all comes down to which one's going to be more productive. And I'm right there with you. I think that they're going to score very, very similarly to each other. And this is going to probably come down to a point where one of these guys edges the other one out by like a point when it's all said and done. But I do think that Foreman has the higher ceiling on that one for sure. So again, also kind of a rambling answer, I guess, on my end there, but that's kind of how I see that one. So sorry to tell you, Jaden, a bit of a split decision for you on that one. Terry, can we put together some sort of ban to keep the Broncos from having primetime games? How the heck are they the London game this week? Hey, at least with them being the London game this week, the matchup will be over by the time most of us wake up on Sundays. Like, yeah, at least out here in the West and, out here in the West part of the country.
And this will be the last one, right? The NFL bought into the same Kool-Aid that we as Broncos fans did, right? Like they bought into the fact that with Russell Wilson, this team was going to be significantly better and be competing. Now, for as bad as the Broncos have been, and this is my sliver of fandom that's left, for as bad as the Broncos have been, they have been within 3 points in every fourth quarter this season.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, they're 2-5. Yes, we keep talking about how anemic and terrible this offense is, but they're not finishing games offensively, right? These drives that championship caliber teams make in the fourth quarter to take leads or, tie games up and retake leads, whatever that is, that the Broncos are missing there. And there's a lot of other things that they're missing on, I know, and we're not going to spend 2 hours diving into the Broncos analytics. All I'm saying is they bought into the Kool-Aid like we do. This is their last primetime game, I believe. And then we're not going to see them on primetime the rest of the season. Like the national audience will not have to worry about Denver anymore after this week. Us here in Colorado, we get to suffer through the next 10 weeks of Broncos games. So it sucks. They suck, right? And it doesn't really seem to matter, what's going on. But if that offense was even like just below middle of the pack, right? Even just that, they would probably be 5-2, not 2-5, because this defense, if you enjoy watching football as a whole, and not just for fantasy, but football as a whole, the Denver defense is a sight to be seen. That defense is just stinking good.
They've got a championship caliber defense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I don't know that it's because they don't have leads. They're not as flashy as like Buffalo or Philadelphia.
Right. Or even Dallas.
But I'm telling you, they're just as good top to bottom as any of those teams. They are playing that well as a unit. It's just hard to take that as our only takeaway from the game when the offense sputters and they're going, 3 and out, first down, so what, 6 and out, 5 and out, whatever. Like, they're just not sustaining drives. The run game looks anemic. Melvin Gordon's running scared because he knows if he fumbles the ball again, his career is essentially over. Latavius Murray is at least trying. Like, I at least appreciate the energy that Latavius Murray runs with. Dulcich is trying to help the offense. I don't know why we can't find ways to get Cortland Sutton the football. Like, it's just mind-blowing.
Right. Well, and the sad state of affairs is had the Broncos gotten to 18 points a game in regulation, like if they could just get to 18 points a game in regulation, they'd be sitting 6-1 right now. Like that's how great the defense is playing at this point. The only loss would have come against the Raiders, which arguably was the Broncos' best offensive output all season long. The defense just had some issues that week, but it is absolutely mind-boggling that you can hold a team to 17 points or less in 6 of 7 NFL games as a defense and have a 2-5 record. Like you should be able, the offense should be able to put up, you should be able to put up about 17, 18 points a game. And the Broncos, for whatever reason, can't seem to do it. So anyway, moving on. We'll move off of that one. Spear IT said he just did a trade for Pittman, Geno Smith. He received Pierce, Mike Evans, Darrell Henderson. Good trade. I don't
mind it if you're set at quarterback, right? Because if you had Geno, that tells me that you have another quarterback, and Geno is going to be your backup anyway. Right. And quite possibly you could be selling high on Geno, right? Like, we might have seen the best of Geno through the first 5 weeks of the season, and now it's going to come back into Brady.
Yep.
Okay. I really like Dameon Pierce. So I think Pierce and Fournette might almost be kind of an even swap. Mike Evans over Michael Pittman. I like that. And Darrell Henderson at the moment is kind of the only show in town, right? Kyron Williams, a guy that we might touch on here, later on as we kind of get into waiver wire stuff or deep stashes, might end up eating into some of that. But for now, Henderson's the only guy. I understand why you did it. But I think you are probably also going to want to turn around, hit the waiver wire, and come up with another backup, because if Tom Brady has another week like he's had the last 2 weeks, you're going to get really frustrated with TB12 being your quarterback right now.
Yes, I am in the frustrated by TB12 camp already. I'm right there with you. I do like the trade. I do like the pieces that you got there, especially with Pittman getting a new quarterback coming in. Like, it's DJ. Tough to say. Okay. Yeah, it's tough to see what that looks like. So, I like it. Alrighty. Terry asking, any concerns about Swift getting shut down prematurely if the Lions lose 2 to 3 more games, resulting in a 1-9 record?
No, I don't see that happening.
No, I really don't either.
They were this bad last year, right? I mean, we were wondering how long it was going to go, and they were more competitive last year, honestly, which is crazy. We thought that they'd take a step forward, and they actually found a way to take a step back. So no, I'm not worried about Swift getting shut down early. I think it's just a matter of how many times Jared Goff's willing to check the ball down, right?
Yep.
The offense needs Amon-Ra St. Brown back. He should. Campbell's saying that he didn't have a concussion, but he's still technically in protocol. Like, obviously they saw something against the Dallas game, and everybody's being really, really sensitive about this concussion deal, which they should be after the deal with Tua. So hopefully St. Brown isn't dinged up and he's able to kind of clear whatever protocol they have here tomorrow, and we can see him back on. But the Lions need him healthy. Chark is on the IR already. Jameson Williams isn't ready to come back just yet. This offense isn't built to make TJ Hawkinson, Gronkowski or Travis Kelce. They need pieces around so that way the box doesn't just get stacked up on Swift. Otherwise, you're just going to be frustrated about that.
Yep. Agreed, right? And it's one of those that with the Lions already having come out and said that you are going to see Jameson Williams hit the field this year. I don't think that they're going to shut things down on really any of these guys. I do think that once you see Chark back healthy, Amon-Ra back healthy, and if we see Jameson Williams come back, like I think that offense can take some steps forward there. That defense is they're young, but they've got a lot of pieces on it that defense is building in the right direction and could be a fairly decent defense here in another year or two. Like they've got the pieces. If they can kind of get molded together and get guys playing on the, playing as a full unit there, they could have a pretty decent defense here in another year or two. And so I think they're going to try and just go out there and compete every single week. That just seems to be kind of how Dan Campbell and that team's DNA seems to go. So not that concerned. Madeline asking, who can I trade James Conner for or Melvin Gordon for, or maybe both? I don't know that there's going to be a very solid trade market on those guys, but
you might be able to get a bag of potato chips for Melvin Gordon. And I'm not trying to be overly crass, but the perception of this Denver offense is not good, and Melvin Gordon hasn't looked good enough. I don't know that you're going to see any sort of real compensation that is better than anything that you couldn't pick up off the waiver wire right now. James Conner, you need to hold on to James Conner for one more week, right? He should be back this week against Minnesota, and you need to be cheering like crazy for James Conner to have a really good week, and then you can try and flip him.
Yep.
And it might be, I'd love to say you could get Dameon Pierce for James Conner and a wide receiver of some sort, but I think the Dameon Pierce owner would kind of have to be pretty naive to what's going on around him. Man, oh man, I'm trying to think wide receiver. Maybe Devonta Smith, right? That type of player. You're looking for a secondary wide receiver. A low end wide receiver 2 type thing, maybe for James Conner, but Melvin Gordon, unfortunately, Madeline, I just don't think you're going to be able to move him for anything at this point. I think people are really backing off from everybody in this Denver offense, and those of us who own pieces of it are either going to have to cut them or just suffer through the ineptitude of watching them on our bench.
Right. You could. Let me float some names out there at you for some running backs that could potentially be some targets for those guys, and tell me who you think would be an additional piece that you would have to kind of put in the trade to try and go get. Let's start off with the guy Cordero Patterson, who we should see coming off the IR here soon, but hasn't played there, and you could see a little bit of a Cordero Patterson manager being frustrated at that situation. Would take a player that's actually playing. What are you thinking?
I think a week ago I'd have told you Jeff Wilson, right? Coming off, expecting Elijah Mitchell to come back. Same type of thing, right? You're expecting Elijah Mitchell to come back. You've rode this Jeff Wilson thing. Well, McCaffrey screwed all that up, right? Like, good for McCaffrey owners. I think he's going to be better in San Francisco than what he had been earlier this season in Carolina. But as a Jeff Wilson Jr. owner, I think it kind of shoots you in the foot a little bit. So I think realistically, you're looking for maybe a Devin Singletary, maybe, Zeke. possibly, right? He's performed just well enough that once Patterson gets back, his usage and overall volume should be better than Zeke's, so that should be a little bit better. I think I'd rather have Michael Carter at this point, knowing that he's the only show in town.
Except for James Robinson, who just got traded there.
I'm not worried about James Robinson, though.
Okay.
I think it's going to take him a minute to get used to Robert Saleh's offense. Like, for whatever reason, that doesn't scare me.
Okay.
I think Michael Carter's still the 1A, and then Robinson's going to be 1B. But you could look at that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Raheem Mostert, honestly, if you're a Raheem Mostert owner, now's a great time to trade him. He's put up consecutive weeks that have been pretty stinking good. If you're able to get some peace out of him before the injury bug inevitably is going to creep up, you might as well get it now. So there's something there to be had.
I like it. Kind of one other thought here. Do you think she could get do you think Khalil Herbert would be attainable with either one of those guys? And is that something that you might want to try and go after there?
Your floor's safer with Herbert. Yeah. I think Connor for Herbert, I'd be asking for like a slight piece back also on top of that, just because Herbert still is the second guy in Chicago. But, I don't think that's a bad thing. As far as here's one for Melvin Gordon. See how frustrated your AJ Dillon owner is.
Yep.
Right. And you still might be frustrated owning AJ Dillon, but I think you're going to be a happier brand of frustrated having AJ Dillon on your roster than having Melvin Gordon.
Right. I would agree.
So it might be Gordon and a piece, but it shouldn't be that big of a piece. Like it might be Melvin Gordon and Zay Jones for AJ Dillon. Like Dillon owners should be begging to get rid of him right now if they were expecting him to be their RB2.
Right. I like it. Mr. COD Reaper says, going back to the waiver wire pickup, he's going to go with Harrison Bryant. Just hoping that Njoku gets healthy over some of the other options there.
Yeah, 3 to 5 weeks. Yeah. I mean, it's going to take a hot minute, and it sucks because David Njoku was a great asset off the waiver wire, a guy that largely went undrafted, and he was almost a cornerstone of your offense the way he had been playing up to this point. So it definitely stinks, but I think you'll be okay with Harrison Bryant. And if you don't like it in 2 weeks, there'll be other guys to stream.
I like it. Terry saying that he traded Swift, Jamal, I'm assuming that's Jamal Williams, and Lockett for Najee, Waddle, and Warren. At the time, he had Brees, Mixon, Carter, Khalil Herbert, Hunt at running back. The quarterback is Tua, and Kupp is the wide receiver 1 for him. Did he screw up? I would have told you before you made the trade, I would have rather had the Swift, Jamal, and Lockett side.
Yeah, I think he gave up too much for that one.
Yeah.
To begin with. Now, Brees going down stinks. Okay, so now you're looking at Mixon, but you still have you have Mixon as your cornerstone, and then Najee, Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle makes up for that. I see what you did. I see what he did. It took me a second to read that through. Sorry, I apologize. I see what he did. I think I'm still okay with it. So you're running with Mixon and then Najee or Carter as your RB2. Possibly Khalil Herbert as your flex. Hunt is just your stash, right? And you're pairing Waddle with Kupp and Tua. I think you're okay. No, I don't think you screwed up. I think you might be a little bit more frustrated, and you have to play the running back, what if game a little bit more with Najee than you did with DeAndre Swift. But I do think Jalen Waddle is an upgrade over Tyler Lockett. And it's always nice to have the handcuff.
Yeah, and that was the smart thing that you did there too, was you traded a back in his handcuff for a back in his handcuff there. Definitely the wide receiver is a big upgrade there for you. I just like the potential upside of Swift and Jamal over what Najee and Warren are going to get you. But I don't mind the trade. I just personally would rather have gone the Swift Jamal and Jamal Williams and the Lockett side of it. But I certainly see what you did there, and you've got your wide receiver room completely sewn up there. I mean, you're not going to be except buy something like that. You're not going to be starting anybody in the wide receiver 1-2 slot outside of Kupp and Waddle. Like, that's just a set it and forget it wide receiver. And now you can kind of play the matchups a little bit there. Mixon's a set it, forget it guy, and you're playing matchups for wide receiver 2 and flex. So, like, I get it. I don't mind it. I just probably would have stayed put a little bit more so, but to kind of each their own there. All right, Anton on YouTube, half point PPR. QB is Tua, Russ. RBs are CMC, Pierce, Walker, Carter, Hubbard. Wide receivers, Lamb, Waddle, Godwin, London, Dobbs, Mooney. Tight ends, Andrews. What spots should I really be looking to upgrade? Anton, I tell you what, if you've got a pretty stacked roster as it sits, is this an 8-person, 10-person league? I mean, really kind of the only upgrades that you could try and go with, I think, would be at the quarterback position.
Yeah, but to get a better quarterback, I don't know that I'd like anything that he has to give up. Like
right.
I like the balance of this team.
Yes.
You have Tua, CMC, Lamb or Waddle, whatever, and Andrews to kind of anchor it. And then you get to sprinkle in Chris Godwin now that he's back. Walker and Pierce have been great assets. Carter's now the lead guy. Chuba, he's there as insurance, right? Kind of Mooney, has started to make his presence known again after the first terrible 5 weeks. So I think you're okay here. I don't know that I would look to upgrade based off of what you would have to give up to get better.
Right. And your running backs, you've got Walker is very quickly emerging as a must start type of piece there. Dameon Pierce has given you no reason to bench him, and CMC, if you've got CMC on the roster, you're going to start him every time he's out there playing. You've got that almost to the point where you've got set it and forget it, and for your wide, you're going to play the matchups between your wide receiver 1, 2, 3 between Lamb, Godwin, and Waddle in most cases. Andrew said it and forget it. Like, I don't know that I'm going to tinker with this roster too much more, because this has got championship caliber roster. Again, some of that will depend, right? If it's an 8-person league or a 10-person league, you're going to be going up against some other stacked rosters there. But I really like the makeup of this team.
Yeah, I do too. Like, yes, you'd love to have a Kupp, a Jefferson, a Jamar type wide receiver there, but again, I don't like what you would have to give up to make that happen, right? It would be, it'd probably be Jalen Waddle or CeeDee Lamb and Michael Carter would kind of open the door in a half-point PPR for maybe not quite Kupp, maybe not quite Diggs, but anything less than Jefferson, Chase, that type of move. But then you're sacrificing your running back depth. So if one of your top, 3 guys go down, then you're stuck with Chuba Hubbard, right? As kind of your third guy. And I don't know that I love that situation.
Right. All righty. Spear IT saying he has Raheem, Aaron Jones, Mike Evans. If Evan plays, who does he sit? He's got to sit one of those.
I am going to tell you to pay attention till the end of the show, because one of those guys is my pine of the week.
Alrighty, I like it. And
sorry, Spirit, but I'm gonna tease on it here a little bit. Stay tuned till the end of the show, because one of them is my pine.
All right, there we go. Keaton got offered Darrell Henderson for Cortland Sutton. Do you take it?
I'm a glutton for running backs, so probably not. I'm sitting on Henderson. They just get nicked up so much easier, right?
I think he's got Sutton and he's getting offered Henderson.
Then I think I do take it.
I
would rather have the Henderson side as anemic, and the Rams' run game hasn't been great either, guys. And I understand that. but they're almost the same. Like their outputs over the last 3 weeks have been almost identical as far as fantasy points goes. I would rather have the running back just because I like running back depth. That's my take on it. So I would tell you Henderson, but by a hair. And if I'm reading this wrong and it's, you really like Courtland Sutton, if you really like Courtland Sutton and you think that this is going to turn around for him after Russ comes back, he's going to find him and see those 7 or 8 targets a week again, then I understand the Sutton side. So that's kind of where I am sitting on that one, guys. Let's see here. Sorry, my screen is getting messed up here. Man, this is why Derek runs this show, guys, and not me. So I'm scrolling up here so I can get to the next question. Let's see here. All right. Tough decision. Yeah, Henderson is getting more volume. I would agree. And that's kind of the point where you're at. So it's a coin flip. I would lean Henderson slightly, like I said. Then in for RG, I lost Breece Hall. I still have Akers on my bench. Picking up Hasty's worth a shot. I mean, Hasty's now the number 2 in Jacksonville, right? So I do think that Jermichael Hasty naturally has a little bit of value now because he is the number 2 behind Travis Etienne. And even if you're not playing him, you have the spot open because you lost Breece Hall. So I think that if you have the open spot on your roster and that's kind of the best thing on your waiver wire, it's not bad to have somebody's backup, especially in running backs, because you never quite know what's going to go on and what injuries might keep up.
And to be honest, I think I'd actually be looking to Snoop Connor a little bit more so than Jermichael Hasty myself on that one, just from the standpoint that I think Snoop Connor is a better fit to kind of fill that James Robinson role than what Jermichael Hasty has been. But it's one of those that if you feel better about the Hasty route, I'm not going to talk you out of that one. I'm probably leaning the Snoop Connor route a little bit more. So.
Fair enough. Oops, sorry, hold on. Should I Claypool and Henderson for Sutton?
Yeah, back to that deal where he's talking about.
No, I wouldn't give up more. I think the trade's fairly even the way it is, Keaton. So I wouldn't be adding to it if you're looking to acquire Sutton.
I still think that he's got Sutton and he's giving up Sutton and all of that. So I guess Keaton, let us know, because I'm reading that a little bit different than that one. Do you have Sutton or do you have Henderson in this trade?
Fair enough. We're going to skip over this real quick while he's answering. Scary Terry for Chase Claypool and CEH.
Pass for me.
I'd rather sit with CEH and Claypool. So whichever side of that deal is the side that you want to be on.
And he did say that he's got Sutton, going back to Keaton's, he's got Sutton, and he would be giving Sutton up for like Claypool and Henderson to his to that one there.
Okay, so for that one there, I don't know that the Henderson owner is going to want to give up 2 pieces for Sutton. Like, if you're really wanting to get this done, I do think it's kind of a straight up 1-for-1.
Right.
Oh, snap. Derek, I was telling everybody, this is why you run through this, man. Like, I'm not used to scrolling through the comments and everything else. So
no worries. I've got
they say
I'll rock it out there. So they say that Heineke's, McLaurin's, going back to the McLaurin question there, right? On that one, do you want McLaurin or the Chase Pool or the CEH? Part of that, and we saw some of that happen here, right? Like Heineke went to McLaurin more than what we've seen in the past. So I get that. And
I'd still rather have a piece of the Chiefs' offense than a piece of the Commanders' offense.
That's fair. It's absolutely fair. So Mr. COD Reaper is looking at the waiver wire.
Is that right? Is that Chris Godwin?
That does look to be Chris Godwin.
That's who you're picking up.
Yep, and you're not thinking
Chris Godwin. That is the only answer to that question, bud.
Correct. JJ Keats is saying I traded Eckler, Samuel, Geno Smith for Hurts, Sanders, and Adams on that one.
I like that. I see that, right? You take the downgrade. Yeah. You take the downgrade at running back for, quite a quarterback who's in the MVP conversation at the moment, right? Like I really like Jalen Hurts. I have him in the home league, so I'm not going to fault you for that.
I like Devontae Adams better than
more than.
I'm assuming that's Deebo Samuel, because that's the only one that makes sense like that.
Yeah, I was initially thinking Curtis Samuel, but Deebo makes way more sense. And I'm still okay with that. Deebo with the hamstring injury, his usage has not been what we thought it was going to be.
No.
Like and the regression CMC, was way stronger than what we thought. CMC is going to keep eating into some of that.
Right.
So maybe we see Samuel with more catches. So in PPR leagues, it might actually help Deebo slightly. But he's got to get over this hamstring injury. But I like Devonta Adams. I'm assuming Miles Sanders, who has been a very pleasant surprise, and I like Jalen. So I'm good with that.
Yeah, I can certainly see why you'd made that move there. Alrighty, so Madeline, going back to the Connor and the Melvin Gordon, she's ready to drop them, and she's 5-1. It's a heck of a start. Way to start your season off there.
I would drop Gordon. That's fine. I would keep my hands on Connor.
Yeah, at least
just
another
to see
week.
What he looks like coming back from injury. Like I understand the frustration there. Drop Melvin Gordon. That's fine. Like you're not going to hurt anybody's feelings. I would keep James Conner just to see how this fits in. Now that we've seen Hopkins come back, we saw how well that Rams rushing attack can work on Thursday night. And if James Conner is able to kind of get back in for his piece of that, I think you'll be happy with him as a flex play to help through bye weeks going forward.
Agreed. Spirit T, start Tom Brady or Daniel Jones this week. I don't know in good conscience I can ever sell somebody to start Daniel Jones over Tom Brady, even with Tom Brady playing the way he has. But
I've made some crazy starts over Tom Brady this year, though. Like I've started Jared Goff over Tom Brady. I've started Geno Smith over Tom Brady. I don't know that's not an unfair question, right? So
no, it's not.
For thunderstorms in Tampa Bay. It's a Thursday night game. Tampa Bay's coming off of playing back-to-back games, looking like trash. Against a Baltimore team that has been susceptible to the pass. The problem is the offensive line for Tampa Bay has been garbage, and if the pass rush starts to get home from Baltimore, they are going to start feasting on that one. On the flip side, the Giants are on the road, traveling clear across the country to go to Seattle, a team who has been very bad against the pass, right? Like this is where the dilemma is. Wan'Dale Robinson's kind of starting to emerge here a little bit. Saquon's still doing really good things, and the Giants are just finding ways to win. And Daniel Jones is using his legs. Like because of all this, I'm going to put it this way. I don't see Tom Brady throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against Baltimore like I would have told you absolutely would have done last year, right? I think you're looking closer to 245 and maybe 2.
Okay.
So Daniel Jones, on the other hand, I think could put up 245 against a really bad Seattle defense, but I think he can chip in 50 yards on the ground and
he might get
2 touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
Maybe even a third somewhere. So yes, I'm going to tell you, start Daniel Jones over Tom Brady. How scary is that?
Yeah,
it's like we're reliving Peyton Manning's last year. This is tough, man. To see these great quarterbacks just kind of lose their edge is sad. So Daniel Jones is the play this week, in my opinion.
As much as I don't want to say it, I think I have to agree to just about every point that you just made there.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I don't like it, but I wouldn't mind that move either. All right. Giovanni video on the YouTube. Should I start this week Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, or Daniel Jones? A lot of Daniel Jones love in the chat here tonight. Jared Goff, I want to see what Jared Goff does and see him have a bounce back week here before I'm going to say, yep, let's go that route. So I would actually probably start start Daniel Jones over Jared Goff, but I'm starting Kirk Cousins over Daniel Jones.
Cosign. I like Cousins against Arizona and with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen more than I like Daniel Jones against Seattle. So right. I think that's probably a little closer than I think it's probably pretty stinking close. I really do, but I know Kirk Cousins has a true number one receiver that can just go ham. Daniel Jones has a couple guys and Saquon Barkley who can go ham. And if this turns into a running game, that's always the fear with the Giants, right? Is if Saquon just goes crazy on the ground and Jones isn't getting those dump off passes and being able to kind of take those chunk plays to Saquon, Wan'Dale Robinson, Slayton through the air, that's where he becomes vulnerable in fantasy.
Agreed. Alrighty. Kyle over on the YouTube just made a trade in a salary/contract league, gave up Breece Hall and Tyler Boyd, got Chris Olave and Chase Edmonds. I'm assuming with it being a salary so it's a keeper/dynasty-ish type of deal there. I mean, I can see that move being made. Just with Breece Hall, likely he's definitely out the rest of this year, and you're probably going to see him not return to form until late into next season. Tyler Boyd is oftentimes kind of a throwaway piece. I really like Chris Olave coming up there. So
you traded Olave for an injured Breece Hall.
Yep, and
yeah. Depending on how it was set up, right, and the contract that you had on Hall compared to the contract that you're obtaining with Olave, I think I'd have rather had Breece Hall because next year when he comes back, the expectations are going to be sky high, and you're never going to be able to get him for that price that you just gave him up for.
Agreed. Okay, I like it. Mr. D. Reaper, I have Olave, Cooper, Jacoby Myers, just picked up Godwin, though, and dropped Rashad Bateman. Yep, I like that move.
Yep, I'm good with that.
Spear IT saying that he's got to go to bed and can't wait till the end of the show. So, hit him up real quick. Just give him a hint on that one there.
You're benching all Green Bay Packers against Buffalo this week.
There you go. And Anton having that 12-person just stacked.
That's a great roster for that half point 12 man.
Yes,
yeah, dude. Anton, you're good, man. If your team isn't 6-1, I guess we're 7 weeks in now. So if your team's not 6-1 or 5-2 coming into week 8, I would be really surprised. Like, I really do like your roster.
Yes, so do I. And Keaton was saying, so it is Sutton that he would be giving up. He's got Sutton, and he would be getting the Henderson side of it on that one. So
they're asking for Sutton, huh?
Yeah. And at which point, right, he was wondering if he should counter with Henderson and Claypool for Sutton.
Well, Keaton, I know we keep going back and forth on this. Give us a couple of names that are on the other guy's roster besides Henderson and Claypool, and let's see if we can help form a solid logical counter that might be able to get you a little bit better here.
Yep, I agreed. Alrighty, ML saying better stash for weeks 15 through 17, OBJ or Will Fuller, upside only, downside irrelevant. I know it's gross.
OBJ?
I'm going to go with the guy that we've actually seen show up in the last year on an NFL field and do something. So
yeah, the teams that OBJ is rumored to, Packers, Rams, possibly the Chiefs still, like I would. OBJ is the better stash.
Absolutely. And then this was going back to that Debo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was saying that they got a steal on that one. And the chat kind of commenting on that one. Alrighty, looking through here, what is going on with the Titans running game? Mr. COD is curious about. Taylor Lewan, I hadn't seen the latest injury report on him, but I know he went down. And he has a whole lot to do with the success that the Titans have running the ball.
Yes. Yeah, the offensive line is not nearly as dominant as they were the last couple seasons. Lewan's down. Their right tackle, and I can't remember his name, but he went away in the offseason. I don't even remember where he went. So, they're looking at 2 or 3 new offensive linemen this year compared to what they've had in the last couple. And it's been tough for him. Like, so you're not seeing Henry being able to kind of get going. And also the Titans have been in more back and forth games this year. Last year, while they're winning these games, they were able to get leads early. Mm-hmm. They're kind of able to jump out on teams and then just salt away the game and wear them down. This year, it's not as much. It's been more back and forth, and they've needed to kind of go down the field and put points on the board. But Tennessee keeps finding a way to win games.
I agree 100%. It's all about, a lot of it has to do with that line. Not only that, but the fact that A.J. Brown also not back there as well, and some of that play action, some of that, Ryan Tannehill not looking overly efficient throwing the ball, like that has something to do with it as well. And so you're seeing Derrick Henry getting he is getting with Derrick Henry. The kind of the knock on him has been if you can hit him in the backfield before he gets his head of steam kind of going and gets downhill a little bit, you can bring him down for 2-3 yard gains. Versus when he hits the line full head of steam before he gets touched, it's 4, 5, 6 yards that he's gaining type of thing. So there's definitely some of that going on there too, but that offensive line is not doing them any favors there. Terrence is saying that he's nervous about Brady. Should I try and trade Brady and Godwin for Mahomes? If you can pull off that deal, I would do it. Any other thoughts on that one? You're muted, by the way. Alrighty.
Sorry, I was trying not to drink my water bottle into the microphone. Yes, if you can get that done, go for it.
All right. And Keaton saying that he would also do that one as well. Spear IT saying, thanks, guys. Good night. ML saying that his only concern on OBJ reports are that he won't be ready until mid-December. If that's December 15th, and that's just a few days before week 15. I think he'd be a risky start in his first game this year and probably still be rusty week 17, maybe finally startable in week 17.
Yes, all of that's correct. But I think there's a greater chance of OBJ seeing an NFL field this season than Will Fuller.
Yeah.
OBJ is trying to get back and play in the NFL. You haven't heard a peep out of Will Fuller since preseason when it was rumored that teams were interested. And I think that was just his agent stirring up noise, trying to get a team to sign him.
Yeah. And again, that's one of those that I haven't heard anything coming down the pike lately on that one. And there's teams out there that are in drastic need of some wide receivers. And you would think that if he still got it and he still, got some juice on that, we would have seen him signed with somebody, at least, and we would have seen him, somebody giving him a prove it kind of deal, something like that so far. Nothing else, sign him to the practice squad to see how he's working out and do that. Like,
if you're the Detroit Lions right now, why wouldn't you take a flyer on Will Fuller?
Right.
Like, in all reality, same thing. If this Debo knee thing is real, why wouldn't you take a flyer on Will Fuller? I mean, that'd be kind of an interesting concept to have Fuller and Lockett go streaking down opposite sidelines just to see what kind of happens. But the teams aren't knocking. So I think you're right. It makes more sense for, real life than fantasy. But, if you're playing a week 18 championship for whatever reason, if you want to keep him on because or pick him up because you think there might be some value in week 16 or 17, go for it, right? Like my opinion just is OBJ over Will Fuller.
Yeah. Yep. I'm right there with you. All right. Keaton saying that this going back to that Henderson-Sutton trade, some other potential guys on that roster are Boyd, Claypool, Melvin Gordon, Gabe Davis, Henderson.
Yeah, I don't see him giving up Gabe Davis for Cortland Sutton.
No.
And so with that being the case,
you could potentially try and get a Henderson and a Boyd out of that, even a Henderson.
Yeah. Henderson and Boyd or Henderson Claypool, whichever guy you like more, right? Claypool's been pretty silent with the Steelers this year. At least Boyd's part of a high-powered Cincinnati offense. So, injuries, bye weeks, whatever, you feel like Boyd could at least have the potential of being relevant. Right. So, yeah, you can counter with Henderson and Boyd for Sutton, and if he wants a piece, add whatever the worst player on your roster is.
I like it. So Terrence, this kind of goes back to that trade question a little bit there. If I can pick up Daniel Jones off of waivers, should I start him over Brady? We said yes earlier on in the show. If I got Jones, I wanted to go all out on Mahomes, and if they pick up Mahomes, I'd roster, or it looks like their roster would be ETN, AJ Brown, St. Brown, Aaron Jones. That's not a bad roster there, but it seems like this is a single QB league. I don't know that I'm going to go through all of that to try and go out and get Mahomes in a single QB league.
No, that's the Brady and Godwin.
Oh, you're right. That's Brady and Godwin for Mahomes.
Yes. For Mahomes. And then he'd have Jones for this week, which is great.
Right.
And then after this week, you drop Daniel Jones and you're running Patrick Mahomes and, for the rest of the season. So, yes, go for it. I like how that would shake out for you.
All righty. And he says he rosters the Broncos defense. Should I pick up a streamer like the Colts or the Titans this week?
No, Broncos defense is legit. And defense does travel over to London. I think, what was it? Was it 2 or 3 weeks ago was the last London game? We actually saw a little bit of offense, but I don't see Trevor Lawrence or the weapons in his passing game being able to do some damage. I think ETN could still be relevant and find a way to get his. But I don't think Kirk or Zay Jones or Marvin Jones are going to do anything.
Right. Evan Ingram might get a little bit of play here and there, but that'd be
some. But I don't see him any better than like tight end 17 on the week.
Right. I mean, I think his ceiling is probably fringe tight end 1. And I'm talking 13.
Yeah, 13, 14. Yeah, that's probably the ceiling.
So, alrighty. Terrence saying, we already got that one. Mr. City Reaper, I see the Bolts being a second half team this year. Just need the O-line to protect Herbert more. Having Eckler just needs to get the ball more. No more sacks. Austin Eckler really is starting to be, it was almost like the Chargers remembered that they had him on their roster starting about week 3, week 4, and he has just come on and certainly seeing some big things out of him there. Part of that, though, Herbert, even if they've got an O-line in front of him that is, they could put the best offensive line in front of him in football, and you would still see him hang on to the ball a little bit longer there. He's got a powerful arm, and he's got a little bit of that gunslinger mentality where you're going to see him try and extend plays, try and keep things alive there because he's also got some wheels. So I don't know that necessarily is going to change much there. I think getting Keenan Allen back will do them a lot of favors, and I think Mike Williams coming back fully healthy will do some mightily favors there as well. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, health, right? The Chargers have needed to get healthy for 3 years now, right? Like it's just the injury bugaboo that follows the Chargers wherever they go. Allen healthy, yes. Who knows how long Mike Williams is going to be out, right? Like we might just see the flipped and Allen comes back and then we lose Mike Williams. So we'll see how some of this goes overall. But I mean, heck, Herbert's dropping back 40 to 50 times a game anyway. Like
Right.
it's surely he's not seeing the touchdowns that we thought he would. He's passing the ball enough, but in I guess normal fantasy football scoring, he's getting 17 to 18 points a game, where we thought he'd be living in that 22 to 24.
Right. All righty. Well, Kevin, that's all the questions we got in the chat for now. Again, guys, if you have questions, comments like that, throw them out there. Let's hit those up. We do have the mailbag that folks were sending in before the show as well to hit up there. So we're going to go ahead and start here, hitting some of these mailbag questions up here. What are your thoughts on James Robinson now that he's a New York Jet? And you touched on this a little bit earlier. Any further thoughts on that one?
I think he's a bye-week fill-in flex play.
Agreed. All right. What do the Patriots do at quarterback?
They start the guy that Belichick says go out there.
I like it.
How about? I mean, that's the Belichickian answer, right?
That was the most coach speak I've heard on heard ever.
Yeah, like Belichick isn't going to tip his hand, right? So it's not a room that you necessarily want to be involved with unless you have to be. Neither one are guys that you're starting in single quarterback leagues. So if you're in a super flex, you really want to try and have both of them. So that way, if one's getting the nod and one's not, that's the guy you're going with. I think Mac Jones is still going to be their quarterback if he's healthy and ready to play. He clearly wasn't, right? They tried to trot him out there. It didn't look that great. Zappy gave him a burst of energy, but then we saw the youth of Zappy, right? 2 bad interceptions, 2 throws that were behind receivers and off target. And in the NFL, those are interceptions. As if you were in college, they probably just fall incomplete. So that's the difference. He's learning that Zappy's not a bad quarterback, but he is more destined for a career backup role than anything else. So I'd rather have Mac Jones, but for now I'm staying away from that room all the way around until I know Mac Jones is fully healthy.
Fair enough. I would agree with that as well. Alrighty. Hey guys. So all of these guys on the waiver, how would you rank them rest of season, non-PPR redraft between Rondale Moore, Wan'Dale Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Dobbs? I think for me, it goes Mooney, Wan'Dale, Rondale, Dobbs.
Cosign. I think I see it the exact same way.
Yep. Alrighty. And you know what? Not often do you and I like co-sign like that when we got 4 players, but it happens from time to time. All right, this one here is how would you fix the garage team? So a little tough to read there, but we'll just kind of go through it. QBs, you got Kyler Murray, Michael Pittman, Brandon Cooks, Wan'Dale Robinson, Joe Mixon, Damian Pierce, tight end. Don't see a starting one there. Kareem Hunt, Everett, Mooney, Akers, Isaiah Spiller, Michael Gallup, Mike Williams, Breece Hall, Jahan Dotson, Elijah Moore with the kicker of Sokup, and the Jets defense there.
For starters, if this is a redraft league, I'm dropping Breece Hall and getting him out of there. I'm getting rid of Isaiah Spiller. And then I'm hitting the waiver wire, right? And trying to figure out what's out there. Obviously, you can't play Cam Akers, but I am keeping him until at least the trade deadline. Like, I'm keeping him until the NFL trade deadline because you never know where he might end up or what injuries might creep up and they decide that they need a running back. Because if, what's a good example? If Saquon goes down, okay. If Saquon goes down and the Giants are 7-2 or even 8-1 at the time, why wouldn't they try and preserve the start of a really good season and get a running back who's not as good as Saquon, but is at least had NFL experience and give him the fresh start that he clearly wants? So Cam Akers I'm keeping. So then you're hitting the waiver wire, right? Like you need a tight end for this week. You don't need Breece Hall anymore. Mike Williams, I'm hoping that you have an IR spot that you can stick Mike Williams on.
He has 3 IR spots with Breece Hall, Jahan Dotson, Elijah Moore currently occupying those. So you're going to Elijah Moore, you can probably drop at this point. I mean, if you want to hang on to him and see if he goes somewhere, via trade, something like that, that could be a deal. But yeah, you stick Mike Williams in one of those spots, and
I'm dropping Breece Hall all the way together. You move Williams down to free up the roster spot. You drop Isaiah Spiller, and then you're trying to improve anywhere you can. And it's all dependent on your waiver wire, right? We touched on tight ends. Look at Harrison Bryant. You could look at a Greg Dulcich. You can look at Irv Smith. You can look at, if you're just for this week, right, until Gerald Everett comes back.
Yep.
You can try and Mo Alley Cox for this week, right? Like, I mean, you're just trying to find some bang for your buck here this week, and then Everett's back in your spot. So then you're trying to upgrade, right? Kyler's doing okay. I like Mixon and Pierce, so you're doing fine there. Hunt in your flex is probably causing a little bit of heartburn, so I think going forward you can probably play Mooney over Kareem Hunt. And overall, you'd probably be happier with that. And then, you're pounding away Gus Edwards. Like, I'd look and see if Gus Edwards is out there. I'd pick up Gus Edwards in a heartbeat to drop Isaiah Spiller.
Yes. All right. I like it. Next question is, need a running back in an auction league. Both Robinson and Donta Foreman are available. It's a half-point PPR league loaded at QB and wide receiver, but best running backs are Dameon Pierce, Pollard, Damian Harris, the Javonte Williams, and Breece Hall injuries killed him. Who would you rather have going forward? They have a ton of money left to pick up either of them. I think between the two, I'd probably going to go Brian Robinson myself on that one. But I wouldn't mind the Donta Foreman either on that. It just seems like the Commanders are incredibly high on Brian Robinson, and Donta Foreman just kind of is the guy that's left on the roster at this point.
Facts. Yeah, I agree with that. I think I'd rather have Brian Robinson.
Cool. All right. The Stacks app saying that the Colts moved on from Matt Ryan. What can we expect from Sam Ehlinger?
Absolutely nothing.
Agreed.
Absolutely. And you figure that Frank Wright is coaching for his job at this point, right? 3 consecutive years of different veteran starting quarterbacks, 0 playoff berths or wins to show for it. He's trying to see if he can catch lightning in a bottle, but quite frankly, it wouldn't surprise me if Nick Foles ends up starting games here at some point. I think the Colts are doing Matt Ryan dirty, but this is the NFL, and sometimes that happens.
Right. And at this point, if you're the Colts, you're, it starts coming down to a point where if draft picks are draft position's a real thing, and that's going to start taking precedent over some other things here, I think. So, alrighty. Next question here. What's up, good old boys? FF. Hope all is well. Question. We all heard the news on CMC headed to the Niners. Is value changing somewhat? They're 1-5, won the first game in week 6. Need to improve quickly. Who do you think I should make a trade proposal for CMC since he's hot right now? Would love to have Jamar Chase and maybe Aaron Jones. What are 2 players from their team that could make this deal possible and kind of a winner for both teams in our opinion? Don't think he would give me 2 players for CMC, so it may have to be a 2-for-2 deal on that one. What kind of stands out to you here a little bit?
If you're wanting to get Chase and Joe, at first I'd start with I think McCaffrey and Chase. Yeah, so McCaffrey and Jacoby Myers. Or hell, McCaffrey and Jacoby Myers, or McCaffrey and Dubs for Chase and Aaron Jones, and see if that kind of gets you where you need to be. I think realistically, Burrow, McCaffrey, Barkley, St. Brown, who's been injured, Ayuk. I don't know that I'm doing this. Like, I know you want Chase, so if that's who you really want, go for it. But I'd rather have the combination of McCaffrey and Barkley than St. Brown and and Jamar Chase. But that's just me.
Yeah, I think I agree with that one as well. Yeah. I mean, if you get Aaron Jones back in the mix there as well, but even at that point, Aaron Jones is an efficient back, whereas Christian McCaffrey, I think we're going to see him get worked in more and more, and you're going to see his situation improve tremendously over that back half there. Who's a good streaming tight end option? We already covered that one as well, so we'll just kind of move on there before we get to the waiver wire, and we hit up on any other things there. Let's hit some of these comments here. Mr. COD Reaper saying that their matchup, Rodgers, they're going against Rodgers, Cook, McCaffrey, Diggs, Brown, Andrews, Lazard, Zerline. Thoughts? You are going to need some firepower on that one.
Yeah, he'll be fine. Rodgers and Lazard aren't going to do squat.
No, I was looking more at that middle of that lineup with Cooks, with Dalvin Cook, McCaffrey, Diggs, Brown, and Andrews there. Like that's the meat of that you're gonna have to worry about. The bookends aren't anything that you're gonna have to be concerned about. So,
yeah,
fair enough. Terrence asking Fields, Daniel Jones, Brady, rest of season. Who you got?
I think Brady won just because I can't not put Tom Brady at the top of that list, but Daniel Jones is honestly probably 1B to Tom Brady's 1A. Justin Fields is further down the list. Look, he played great on primetime, and if the Bears keep this up and they're having these design runs and get him moving, I do think Justin Fields is dynamic and kind of an interesting late season option. But I don't know that I trust Chicago to be able to do this. Like, I don't know that Eberflus is going to let Justin Fields play more like Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
And that's really what you need Justin Fields to do. You need him to run 9 times a game for 65 yards and every other game get a touchdown. Like, that's what you need out of Justin Fields for him to be truly relevant. Yes, they just did it against New England, but I'm not banking on the fact that that's going to continue. And when it's all said and done with, when they get in the red zone, they're giving it to Monty or Herbert. They don't want Fields running inside the 5.
Agreed. Alrighty. Waiver wire week 8. What you think? Who are some hot names here that we haven't really mentioned before?
Gus Edwards, I just mentioned him, right? Like, he's a guy to kind of be on the lookout here, with obviously the Dobbins news. Yes, he's nursing the knee injury, whatever. They're holding him out. I think they're being cautious of it. So this week's not a great matchup against Tampa Bay, but going forward, while Dobbins is on IR, I like that Gus Edwards is going to be involved in that offense. They clearly trust him. They've kept him around for years now for situations like this, and he's always been able to do really well. We've talked about tight end almost at nauseum this week, so we've had that. Wide receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson, Alec
Pierce,
if he still happens to be out there. In a couple leagues, I've seen Michael Gallup dropped already. Like, they got really frustrated with the 0 points that Gallup put up. He's not – I don't think he's a bad stash. I think those
Isaiah
are kind of –
Isaiah McKenzie is a guy that I don't mind putting on there as a a potential ceiling type of play if I need some firepower out of the flex.
For this week, Goodwin, because DK is going to be out, right? So Marquise Goodwin, I think that one's interesting, especially in deeper leagues, to be able to take a flyer on and get you some points there. I think those are kind of the Donovan Peoples-Jones is a possibility, right? Like I do expect him to see a couple more targets with Njoku being out. So I think that's a possibility. Corey Davis is another guy I'm starting to see on waiver wires now. They're frustrated with him. So keep an eye on his injury. But if he's going to be playing, he's a guy that's worth taking a peek at to see if you have room to stash him. I think those are kind of the big ones here at the moment.
Alrighty. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Trophy Smack. And here at the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast, we're all about cash and trophies. And now you can get a completely customized trophy for your league at trophysmack.com. You'll also find the link to it down in the description on both the audio side of this show and on the YouTube. If you want a championship belt or a winner's ring, Trophy Smack has you covered. Check out that link down in the description. And, it helps the boys out when you do that there as well. And make sure that you're getting them cash and them trophies there. So, Kevin, let's go ahead. And I know that we're starting to get some comments in here. And Swavey, I'll get to yours here in just a minute. But first, we're going to hit up the Pine and Shine results, and then I'll get your question here. So let's go ahead and head into the Pine and the Shine recap last week. Let's just go ahead and run through the Pines here. Alex called for Terry McLaurin to be a Pine. Was thinking that without Wentz, the Packers D had been okay against the pass. To Pine him, Terry McLaurin ended up having a fairly decent day out there for you. Kevin, who'd you call for?
I said Pine, TJ Hawkinson. I thought that with the pass rush of the Cowboys, and with, at the time, St. Brown being back, that Hawkinson was not going to be nearly as involved in the offense that week.
I like it. I've got, I called for Deontay Johnson as a Pine, and definitely, had a bit of a disappearing act there. And I'm going to say that I hit on that Pine there. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Shine recaps here. Alex was calling for Zeke Elliott to have a Shine. And I'd say that he ended up doing all right on that one. Zeke had a top 10 finish last week.
Yep, absolutely. My Shine was Jalen Waddle. Didn't quite make it there. Had the yardage, but did not end up in the end zone. So that caused him to slide down a little bit with guys having some bigger weeks than he did. So I probably missed for a lot of you on that Jalen Waddle pick, but we'll do better.
And mine was one of those. We were talking about this one before the show, and it was one of those that, on like the technical side of things, I suppose it hits, but at the end of the day, it wasn't much of a move on that thing. So we're just going to call it a push, because I called for Lat Murray to outperform his expert consensus RB 34 on the week. He got to like RB 29. So while it probably hit, I'm calling it a push because it wasn't enough of a wasn't enough of a Shine to move it past that one. So results after week 7, Alex sitting at the top of the hill, still sitting 9-5. I've moved to 8-5-1, and Kevin sitting at 8-6. So we've got this thing where we're both within a game of him, and you're kind of making some progress week in, week out. Let's see if we can't catch him here after week 8. Swavey in the comments has a question here. Hey guys, Saquon and Kyle Pitts for Ken Walker and Kelsey. Looks like it is a full point PPR. I think I kind of like the Walker and Kelsey side of it.
Give me Walker and Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so frustrated as a Kyle Pitts owner right now. I can't see straight. So yes, you're giving up Saquon, but I think the gap between Saquon and Kenneth Walker is smaller than the gap between Kyle Pitts and Travis Kelsey. That's the side I want. Kelsey Walker.
Yep. The only thing that might sway that for me is if it's a dynasty type of thing. But redraft, smash the yes button for Walker and Kelsey. Absolutely. So awesome. Appreciate the question. Good seeing you in the chat again, Swavey. Alrighty, Kevin, let's go ahead and head on over into the Thursday night game here. And for Thursday night, we got the Baltimore Ravens facing off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Baltimore favored by about 1.5. The over-under on this one, 45. What are your thoughts on this one?
Tampa Bay has not really been able to move the ball here the last couple weeks. They expect a close game. We'll see. I don't have any faith in Tampa Bay right now, and I think Baltimore's defense is able to get it done. So Baltimore to cover. I'm taking the under though. I don't think they get to 45.
No. In fact, all three of us, we'll just save all the suspense there. All three of us calling for Baltimore to cover the under on this one. Yeah, I don't have Alex's reasonings here, but very much the same that you were just talking about. I think that you're going to see this one play out a little bit more so on the ground there. The Ravens be able to kind of control the clock there. We haven't seen the Ravens really put up monstrous point performances here. The Buccaneers have had their issues as well. So I do like the under. I do like Baltimore. And it seems, although like every game Baltimore plays always seems to come down to a field goal type of thing, regardless of what Vegas seems to think that this outcome is going to be. So that's kind of how I see it there as well. Swavey was asking, what if the Saquon side adds Pittman? Does that change anything for you? If it's, I'm assuming that Saquon, Pitts, and Pittman for Ken Walker and Kelsey. I think I still lean the Ken Walker and the Kelsey side of it. That's two.
That's enough to lead me back to the Saquon side because we don't really know what Pittman's going to do with Sam Ehlinger, but he's not going to be putting up zeros, right? Like that 3 for 2, I don't like nearly as much. I lean back to the Saquon side if you're adding Michael Pittman.
Okay. So Swavey, a bit of a split decision for you there, but you got the reasonings for that as well. All righty. Let's go ahead and take a look here at the Thursday night game. We're going to play a little touchdown dance, and that's a game we play over there on monkeyknifefight.com. You can use the promo code GOBFF to play along with us over there. First-time users get a 100% deposit match up to $100 using that promo code GOBFF. And so for everybody out there that doesn't know, the Monkey Knife Fight touchdown dance game is a game in which you pick 3 players and to get into the end zone, and you're going to call your shot on the total number of touchdowns scored by those 3 players, and the prize is determined based on that. So if you're saying that there'll be 2.5 or more touchdowns, it's a times 2 prize. 3.5 or more touchdowns is a times 3 prize, and 4.5 more touchdowns is a times 6 prize. So Kevin, who you thinking here? Who you got putting some touchdown magic on this one?
Lamar, Mark Andrews, and Leonard Fournette are the 3 guys I'm going with in this game. But I'm going to chicken out and only go times 2.
Fair enough. I like it. Yeah, I had Andrews, I had Fournette as well. I've been kind of going back and forth on who I want for my third guy here. And do I want to take the Lamar side? Do I want to take the Godwin side? And kind of back and forth on that one. I'm going to go back to the Lamar side on this one.
We matched this week.
We got a matchy. It was like we talked about this before, and we didn't. But yeah, I think Baltimore's gonna win the game. I'm gonna call for the guys that are gonna score more points.
I can go contrarian. I can take off Lamar and go whichever running back. If Gus Edwards starts, Gus Edwards. If Gus Edwards doesn't start, then Chris Godwin. So It is dependent on Edwards and his health, just for sake of the game. But no, realistically, if I were putting money on it, it would be Lamar, Fournette, and Andrews.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm right there, where I'm at as well. So another question coming in here, Carmine 23 over on YouTube. Should I trade Tyreek and Ayuk for ETN and Debo? I want the Tyreek side. Like, that is the best player in this deal.
Yeah, I agree. I'd rather have Tyreek and Brandon Ayuk.
Like, I can see why you would want to do the ETN and Debo side of things. but I think Debo's usage actually goes down even more so going forward, especially with him being a little banged up and the addition of CMC and ETN. While he's been playing tremendous there, I don't think that Doug Peterson has an allergy, I think, to running a single back as his running back there, and has to run running back by committee. So I do think that I do think JaMychal Hasty and Snoop Connor are going to be a bit of a thorn in the side of Travis Etienne owners rest of season out there. So I'm going to stick with the best player in the deal, and Tyreek's been putting up monster numbers for you. So that's the way I lean. Alrighty, let's go ahead and we're going to head right on into the pine and the shine for week 8. And, again, coming into this one, we've got Alex sitting at 9-5. I'm sitting at 8-5-1, and Kevin sitting at 8-6 here. And for everybody out there, first time seeing the show, first time looking at this, the pine is where we go through and we're calling our shot on somebody that is going to underperform their projections, going to underperform for that, and is a potential bench consideration for you. So let's go ahead and get into the pines and the shines. Alex is starting off with Tyler Lockett against the Giants. Kevin, who you got here?
I'm saying pine Aaron Jones against the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I could see that one, definitely. I'm going to call for George Kittle to go on the pine on this one, and definitely a little bit of an interesting one there because he comes off of a big week this last week, but they are playing the Rams. It's a tougher matchup for them. The Rams have been playing pretty decent against the tight ends there, and I think that we typically see the San Francisco Rams game a little bit lower scoring there. So that's the way I'm going to lean. I'm going to think George Kittle, who right now is sitting at expert consensus ranking tight end 2 on this week, probably finishes closer. May still finish tight end 1, but it's going to be nowhere near that elite upside if you're banking on a tight end 2 type of thing there. Alrighty, let's go ahead and we'll head on into the shine here. And for the shine is where we go through and we're looking at guys. We really like their matchups. We really think that they're going to outperform. They're going to have a great week. They're going to absolutely be a rock star in your lineup for you. Alex calling for Brandon Cooks against Tennessee. Really doesn't like that Titans defense against the pass, so he's going Brandon Cooks. Kevin, who you got?
I'm going Brandon Ayuk. Between the Deebo Samuel injury and most of the time Ayuk's going to be seeing coverage away on the off coverage side. So Ayuk's been doing fairly well here the last couple weeks, better than what I expected. So I'm going to go ahead and say it. He's going to shine this week against a Rams pass defense that's been kind of crummy here to start the season.
Yep, and that was part of my reason, too, for the George Kittle one. I think that you see Ayuk actually have a bit more of a week this week. My shine this week is a guy that actually showed up better than I thought he would. Got a pretty prime matchup here going up against Atlanta. Well, Atlanta's kind of been average against points allowed to the opposing running backs. Overall, that defense is kind of bad this year, and they give up the second most points, as an opposing defense. So I do think that Donta Foreman outperforms his rank. He's hitting there kind of in a flex play consideration for a lot of you. I think he is worth the start, and I think that he will do very well for your fantasy lineups out there. Any other thoughts on the pine and the shine?
No, I like these. I think this is the week, Derek. I think this is where we get Alex.
I agree. This one here, let's overtake him. I think, and you actually had a really good point about some of these picks earlier on. If you wanted to share those, or we can move along.
About the pine and shines?
Yeah.
Oh, I like Alex's players. I think I think I would have them flipped though.
Yeah.
Like I think with DK being out, Tyler Lockett kind of being the only show in town, I think Gino's going to have to force feed him the ball and lean on Kenneth Walker. So I think I'd actually put Lockett in the shine category. Brandon Cooks, I think I'd pine him at the moment because we just saw Davis Mills have a career high in attempts and completions, but Brandon Cooks only saw 4 receptions last week. So that is a little troublesome. And there's talks about him possibly being traded, so you never know what's going to go on here. So I would personally shy away from Brandon Cooks as my shine.
I like it. Well, Kevin, I do believe that's going to take us down here to about the end. If anybody has any last-minute questions in the chat, let's throw them out there. Let's get you guys some answers on some of this stuff and make sure we are ready to set to rock and roll. We will, of course, be doing the cut up of the mailbag part of this thing as a premiere on the YouTube channel tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. On that one, and I sit in the chat with y'all and we answer any questions that might come up, things like that, if you guys have any of those. So we'll keep that rock and roll. And then Kevin and I will be back on Friday. We're looking at all of the slate of games into the weekend and calling our shots on the spreads, the over-unders, the player props, and talking any fantasy questions in there as well. Question coming in here on Pate, I think is how you say that. Best waiver wire pickup between Josh Reynolds, Antonio Gibson, Chuba Hubbard, Paris Campbell. I think I like the Josh Reynolds. Yeah.
Chark just hit IR. We got to see what is going on here with the Amon-Ra St. Brown stuff. Gibson, they just really want to toss Antonio Gibson away. And then Chuba Hubbard's kind of getting third down work. Paris Campbell is a flash in the pan. I'm not buying the hype. I did it for the first 3 years of his career. I'm not going to do it anymore, damn it. So Josh Reynolds for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Chuba Hubbard's an interesting play, and I get why a lot of people are kind of going that route and kind of doing all that. But Chuba Hubbard was a Matt Rule guy. Like, that's the reason he's in Carolina. Matt Rule no longer there. Donta Foreman has shown a lot of pop, shown a lot of flash, and I'm between Chuba Hubbard and Donta Foreman, I'd far rather have Donta Foreman. So yeah, Josh Reynolds has been getting good play, getting good fantasy points for you. That'd be the way I'd go. Start Rondale Moore, Jacoby Myers, or Kareem Hunt in flex play for week 8.
Rondale Moore. I don't love Myers' matchup against the Jets. And Kareem Hunt has kind of been an afterthought here this season with how dominant Nick Chubb has been.
For me, it kind of depends a little bit on the Jacoby Myers, Rondale Moore, simply because if, like, we've seen that where Mac Jones tends to favor Jacoby Myers more than just about everybody else in a PPR side of things. The matchup a little bit tough, but this could be one of those that you see Sauce Gardner playing more the Devontae Parker side of things than a Jacoby Myers, which could ultimately free some things up there. So I think that Jacoby Myers probably gives a little bit safer floor, but I think Rondale Moore gives a much bigger ceiling play on that one is how I would kind of look at that one. Rollins, Kyle Pitts are still 5-2. Do I trade Fournette, Brian Robinson, and Lazard for ETN, Dawson Knox, AJ Dillon? Absolutely not. Zero chance I'm getting rid of like ETN's the only usable piece in that one.
Yeah, I think ETN and Fournette are pretty equal when it's all said and done with. And Brian Robinson is going to see much more usage than AJ Dillon. And I don't trust Dawson Knox, so I'd rather have Allen Lazard. So I would keep Fournette, Robinson, and Lazard as well.
Yep. X Diamond, would you trade Higgins for Ken Walker in half-point PPR? I would.
I want Ken Walker, yes.
Mm-hmm. So, T. Higgins, great player, been doing some amazing things for it, but Ken Walker looks like he is primed, set to be a guy that can help you win a championship. T. Higgins will be a piece on a championship roster, whereas Ken Walker looks like he could very well be the guy to carry you through that as in a RB1 or RB2 role on your fantasy roster. GD Bizzle just did 2 trades today. Can you tell me your thoughts? Gave up Najee Henderson for Alvin Kamara. Gave Singletary for Devonta Smith. I think I like the Singletary for Devonta Smith one.
Is this the same league?
No, I think this is a little different one.
No. I'm just saying, if he did all this in the same league, so he gave up Najee, Darrell Henderson, and Devin Singletary.
Oh,
And
yes.
he got Alvin Kamara and Devonta Smith. Am I reading this correctly?
He says, yes, it is in the same league. You might have.
God bless you for having the stones of giving up all your running back depth.
Yes.
I don't like it because I'm not buying into Alvin Kamara now that Jameis Winston is back. So I'm really struggling with the fact that Kamara is not going to see the dump off passes. You're not going to see as much Taysom Hill. It's going to be much more drive the ball down the field. The Saints player that I actually really want going forward is Chris Olave. So I understand the frustration with Najee and Henderson. But yeah, I think I would have personally, I would have rather kept Najee and Henderson. I do like the Devonta Smith part though. Like, I think that's a good trade for both sides. You can see where that worked out. I like the Smith side slightly more than the Singletary side, so I do like that one. But I think I would have felt like that was an overpay for Najee and Henderson to get Alvin Kamara in return, because I'm not buying into the AK hype now that Jameis Winston is going to be back under center.
Yeah, it definitely was very frustrating being a Alvin Kamara manager with when Jameis was under center there. But and he did give a little bit more context as to why he did that one. He still has Saquon as his running back there. He had Breece Hall going down. So I can see why you would have made that move. I don't know. I'm kind of in the same boat Kevin is there, that I don't know that I'm necessarily giving up all my depth there on that one, because at this point, unless you've got some other running back stash that can fill in for like an RB2 or flex play for you, it's going to be a little tough to navigate that should something happen to Saquon, Alvin Kamara, because you're going to be down a little bit there. So some of that is going to be a little bit tough there. So I can certainly see that.
Now, like we were talking about the waiver wire, if you're able to fill back in with like a Gus Edwards,
yep,
for that running back depth, I think that helps, right? Like it's just kind of that
Donta Foreman if he's still out there.
Yeah, Donta Foreman. So I do think that if there's a piece on the waiver wire that you're able to add back into that running back room, it probably does help ease that pain that I would feel. But, ultimately, if you're happy with it, run with it. But I do really like that Singleton for Devonta Smith trade.
Yes, I agree. Alrighty, Jackson over on YouTube. The team is Lamar, JT, Damian Pierce, Kupp, Hill, Higbee, Godwin at flex. I want to upgrade flex, trying to package Godwin and Mostert. Who do you think I should target? 10-person PPR.
I would start shooting for CeeDee Lamb, Leonard Fournette, Godwin and Mostert. You might be able to get Joe Mixon, possibly, right? Because he's been a little frustrating for some owners up to this point. But I think he's a piece that you could get in return.
I would see if I could try and take a shot at try and shoot your shot with Ken Walker, ETN. They're low enough still off of their beginning season that if you got somebody that doesn't know, hasn't been following it that close, things like that, like you might be able to pull off a bit of a deal there because you've got some name power in that one versus not. So that could be a potential move there as well.
Fact. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'd be looking at.
I like it. Adrian over on YouTube saying, greetings from Ravens Flock, Mexico. Kevin, we've got international.
All right. Hot damn. Well, greetings. Thank you for tuning in.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in there, Adrian. Jackson saying he traded Lenny for JT straight up.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
I like it. I like it a lot. So, Alrighty. Well, guys, if we have any other questions, let's hit those up. Let's get them in here real quick. We'll make sure we answer any questions before we sign off. But Kevin, I think that's going to take us down here to final thoughts. What final thoughts do you have out there for the viewers and listeners?
Keep hammering away, right? We're in the midst of it. I like these trades. Obviously, we're trying to make moves. We're trying to set ourselves apart as we get into the grind of the middle of the fantasy season. But stay diligent. This is where you're able to kind of separate yourself from a lot of your league mates by doing the homework, by trying to make these trades. You work in the waiver wire. Every point counts, right? Even in our crazy scoring league, but especially in, half point or traditional full point PPRs, every point counts right now as the injuries and bye weeks start to mount up. So keep hammering away. And if you have any questions, feel free to hit us up on any of our socials at Good Old Boys FF. We are more than happy to give our 2 cents and our opinions on what would help make your roster better.
Absolutely. And like Kevin just said, at Good Old Boys FF on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of those good social places. Again, one of the best places to help support this independent podcast. Head over to the YouTube channel, click the subscribe button, smash the like button on this video. Of course, leave the comments, all that good stuff. We respond to the DMs, we respond to the adding and the comment sections on all of this stuff. Question coming in there. So he has Hurts, Saquon, Kamara, Michael Thomas, London, Goddard, Smith, Cardinals D, Carlson. How should I feel? Currently 5-2 in a 12-person no PPR.
Upgrade that defense.
Yeah,
that Cardinals defense ain't doing you any favors. Upgrade that defense. Jets, Jaguars. An interesting one to keep an eye out for. What might pop up this week is the 49ers defense just got smoked by Kansas City, and now they have the Rams, and then they have a bye week, right? So if you're looking ahead, you're probably looking to, move off of San Francisco's defense. But in your case, I would actually be looking to pick up San Francisco's defense because I think down the stretch you will be much happier with that than Arizona. Obviously, I don't see anybody dropping the Broncos, but if someone drops the Broncos defense, pick them up. The Eagles are a viable option. I like the Ravens this week just because I'm not afraid of Tampa Bay right now with the way that they've been playing. So I think you have some options there to get better on defense. Again, stealing points, right? You're just stealing points to acquire a total, and that's just a way to do it. But I like Carlson. I really like Goddard. He's been great. Wide receiver might need a little bit of help, right? Like Michael Thomas has been hurt. Drake London's disappeared. It's great that you have 2 Eagles on your roster, but you probably need to diversify a little bit. So I would be looking to try and see what's on that waiver wire and see if you can improve at wide receiver just a little bit.
Absolutely. He's saying that he had the Rams D, but they've been trash, so he dropped them.
Yeah, I understand that. They've been frustrating as well.
Alrighty. Terry saying trade Cup for Sanders and Evans.
Golly.
I think I still want
Cup. I think I agree. I think I still want Cup. That's just such a hard asset to get rid of because he is so much more involved in the offense singularly as Evans and or Sanders is, right? Sanders shares the backfield with Jalen Hurts and Kenneth Gainwell and occasionally Boston Scott. Mike Evans is completely dependent on how the offensive line protects Tom Brady and what he's able to do on that side. Plus he's sharing a field with Chris Godwin, Russell Gage. So I see the allure to it, but I think week in and week out, I think I'd rather have Cup.
12. That's the number, 12. To keep in mind here when you're talking about Cooper Kupp. He's getting 12 targets per game on average this season, chewing up a ton of the percentage. Like, this is one of those that when Matt Stafford drops back to throw the ball, which they do a bunch in a Sean McVay offense, he looks at Cooper Kupp, and then his second read is Cooper Kupp, and then you might get him off onto a third read, and then his fourth read is Cooper Kupp type of thing. Like, that is where the ball is going, and that is really tough to get away from. Now, Mike Evans has been okay for you, but and Mike Evans still averaging 8 targets a game. But keep in mind that's 8 targets a game with him just getting 15 this last week in week 7. So it highly inflated his number. For the most part, you were looking at 7, 4, 10, 8, 4. So you're talking 12, 22, 34 divided by 5 games. It was like 7 targets a game. Like, that's this last 15% or 15 target outburst just moved him up a full percentage or full target per game there. So, like Kevin was just saying, right. And I'm just trying to hammer that point home, that the simple fact of the matter that you're seeing so much usage going Cooper Kupp, I have a hard time moving off of that one. So, Elver on YouTube traded Miles Sanders for ETN, non-PPR. Thoughts?
I think it's about an even trade.
Yeah.
I think Sanders actually has a higher ceiling. We see those games pop up from time to time. Mm-hmm. But now that the Jags have traded away James Robinson, I think ETN arguably has an equal floor, maybe even slightly safer, because he's not sharing the backfield with so many other people.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And plus, while Trevor Lawrence has been taking off a little bit here and more, it's nowhere near the same type of level that you're going to see Jalen Hurts tuck the ball and run. So while Trevor Lawrence might get some of those rushing work down there in Jacksonville, it's not going to be anywhere near what Philly's doing. So I like it, but it does kind of seem a little lateral to me. Bizzle back on that deal. Yeah, a lot of defenses are gone. Let me know. This sounds dumb, but Seattle D has been great, so maybe might get them. I
don't like them either, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to dig further down here and try and find something.
I mean, it's almost to the point, if you're going to start Seattle's defense, like this week, right? Well, they have had some decent performances in the past. Seattle's defense, we'll put them on the same level this week as like, let me get this pulled back up here. But yeah, I'm not at all a fan of that one.
I'd rather play Carolina or Atlanta this week over Seattle or the Cardinals.
I'd
rather have the Saints or the Raiders.
Did you mention Atlanta? I'd rather have Atlanta than Seattle.
Yeah, Carolina or Atlanta.
Okay.
Over the Seattle one.
I'd rather have Jacksonville.
Yeah. I agree. I'd rather have Jacksonville. Washington this week. Washington's been terrible up to this point, but they get to play against Sam Ehlinger. Like, I think taking a flyer on the Commanders' defense this week is well worth it.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't mind the Vegas Raiders. I don't mind the Vegas Raiders this week.
Yeah, I think Las Vegas has the chance to turn Jameis Winston over, right? So that's always a good thing. So there's got to be better options. There's got to be. Seattle's D's been getting torched in the passing game. Right? They jumped out to that big lead against the Chargers last week and then had to hold on by the skin of their teeth, giving up a crap ton of points in the process. So I just think there's got to be something better for you out there right now.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. All righty. Terry asking Pittman rest of season thoughts.
My initial thought is he's a flex play matchup dependent. hopefully after this week, we'll be able to tell you a little bit more and see how Ellinger uses him. And maybe it surprises us, right? Maybe they come out and the play action game's working for them because the safeties want to make sure they stop Thomas, and Ellinger sees a lot of one-on-one matchups, and Pittman sees 14 targets this week, and we feel a little bit better about it. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's possible. So right now, Michael Pittman's downgraded to a flex play, and he's going to help you get through bye weeks, and you're just going to unfortunately have to suffer through it.
Yes. Pate over on YouTube. Question is, we've got Prescott, JT, Saquon, Amon-Ra, Mark Cooper, Rondell Moore, Kareem Hunt, Jacoby Myers, AJ Dillon, Darnell Mooney, Josh Reynolds, and Marquise Hollywood Brown is on the IR. How would you set that lineup for that one? Obviously, Dak is a start.
Dak, JT, Saquon must start. I'm starting Amon-Ra St. Brown as long as he clears protocol. Yep. So I guess first and foremost is if St. Brown can't go, I'm probably going to start Jacoby Myers. And then I need one more week of Mooney before I buy into that. And I don't love the matchup against Dallas this week for the Bears in general. So I think I like Jacoby against the Jets more than Mooney against the Cowboys this week. So, and that's all dependent on if St. Brown can't go.
Yeah. Yeah, I would co-sign that. Co-sign that one, certainly. Alrighty. Well, Kevin, that looks like that's takes us down to the final questions there. And guys, that's going to do it for us. Appreciate everybody tuning in the chat. Again, you can find, if you have questions, anything like that, you can find us on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at Good Old Boys FF. We've got the YouTube channel out there, one of the best places to find all of our content, youtube.com, the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel out there. And let's just hit this last one here. Yeah, no good running backs left, and the bench is Reynolds, Duvernay, Dulcich. Dropped a lot of players. Not sure how to get other RBs, but he'll roll with Saquon and Kamara. That going back to that trade earlier.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's what you can do, right? You made the decision that you thought was best for your team. Just because I would have made another one doesn't mean, I'm always right. If I was, I'd be making a hell of a lot more money than doing this for free, guys.
Exactly. Bronson.
All right, here's the deal, Bronson. I need you to like and subscribe on YouTube right now for me to answer this question because we're signing off, and I think I need to get something from this because this is fun at this point. So, Bronson, give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you hit like and subscribe, and then I'll answer your question.
All right. While he's taking care of that, we're going to run through this question here. Is in a 2 quarterback, 2 tight end, 2 flex league. The team is QB Burrow, Allen, and Burrow and Josh Allen, Zeke, Kamara, Jacobs, Henderson. Wide receivers are Sutton, DK, Lazard, Jacoby, Thielen, Pitts, Higbee, and Waller. Do I trade Josh Jacobs for Chase? And he's saying that he just did hit the like, the subscribe, all that good stuff. So Kevin, what are your thoughts here? Does he trade Josh Jacobs for Jamar Chase?
Yes, you have to. Any chance you can acquire, golly.
I don't know that I like that. What that does to his.
I don't love what it does to the roster, but you're starting Kamara each week, and then you're floating between Zeke and Henderson. And then with DK going down, he needs a number 1, though. He's going to drown.
Yeah.
He doesn't have enough firepower at receiver without this.
Yeah. I mean, I see it from both sides. And I can subscribe to both sides. I always have, you and I think very similarly on the running back composition of a team there. But I always have a tough time trading away a guy that's having a top 10 running back season for wide receiver that's been a little, wide receivers are always a little bit more volatile there, but Jamar Chase has been solid coming down the stretch for you. And it really does seem like Joe Burrow's starting to unleash the ball a little bit more and throwing the ball more than what we'd seen earlier in the season. So I'm right there with you. I think you've got to do it simply from the standpoint that you do need that firepower, and there's not much else that you're going to be able to rock and roll it that way. With Sutton and DK for Chase,
I would do that in a heartbeat. Sutton and
yes.
DK, if someone's willing to take that on for you to get Jamar Chase, I would do that in a heartbeat. Number one. And then
what do you do?
Jacoby for Michael Thomas
Or Terry McLaurin. I honestly,
at that point, God dang. I think at that point, I'm a glutton for punishment, and maybe I hold on to Pitts. But if you wanted to go for one,
he's got Higbee and Waller on the roster as well. He's holding on to 3 tight ends.
Oh, Waller might be one of the only top tight ends doing worse than Pitts this year, though.
Right. And it is a start 2 tight end league there too. So, the 3 tight ends make sense.
Yeah. So I think that's where I would stay put. Like, you're going to want the 3 injuries, bye weeks, whatever. Like, yeah. I know that the waiver is going to be completely depleted on tight ends for a 2 tight end league. So the second part, I think I'd sit pat. But if you could do Sutton and DK for Chase, I would be all for that. And then you're just kind of rolling through with Lazard and Jacoby Myers and Thielen and kind of going from there to see what you're doing at wide receiver too. But I like that a lot better. A lot better.
Tell me what you think about this. Zeke and Sutton for Chase. Like, is that a deal you think you could get done? I think that probably has a better chance of going through than Sutton and DK for Chase.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be okay with that too, because you're still keeping your 2 best running backs at that point, right?
Right. And at that point, you lose out on some flex there with Zeke, who's been able to be just a pretty, flex worthy candidate there. But you've got your 2 starting running backs. You've got the firepower at wide receiver there, and you can kind of float between Lazard, Jacoby Myers as that wide receiver too.
Yeah, he doesn't like Zeke, which is fine.
Yeah, and if that's the case too, if he doesn't like Zeke, then he doesn't like Zeke. But I would also then try and play up the fact that Darrell Henderson might get the right. Like, you might, try and play up the fact Darrell Henderson might be the only show in town in a couple of weeks out there in the Rams. I mean,
if you get that deal done, you are a hero amongst fantasy. There is no chance in hell I am giving up Jamar Chase for Cortland Sutton and Darrell Henderson. Like, right. I wouldn't even respond to that is the problem. No.
Would you?
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, I would. I'd do Kamara for Chase, straight up.
I mean, it's kind of puts you right in the same boat as Jacobs for Chase. Kamara is probably less Josh Jacobs is a little less volatile this season than Kamara is.
My opinion is you start working a little bit smaller. Like, instead of Chase, what about a Darrell Henderson and Jacoby Myers, or Darrell Henderson and Cortland Sutton for CeeDee Lamb? Right? Start building up. You don't have to hit the home run. And yes, Jamar Chase is great and we all want to get him, but just as much as we want to get him, as an owner of Jamar Chase, you're going to have to offer me a king's ransom. Like, if you offer, from my perspective, if I don't like the first offer at all, I'm either not going to I'm not going to counter, or if I counter, it's going to be so egregious, you're going to be like, okay, this guy's, a jerk. So what if you switch gears and went for a tier down, right? CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, possibly Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans. Think that caliber, because then you could package your Darrell Henderson and Sutton prospects and try and move up that way. And then you can see what you have and what you like, because then you could package You might be able to do something like a Kyle Pitts and CeeDee Lamb for Jamar Chase or Stephon Diggs or Justin Jefferson type. Like there's enough name power behind that trade that someone will at least take you seriously.
Yeah. And he's saying too, Kamara might get suspended. He might
next year. He's not getting suspended this year. I promise you. Kamara is not getting suspended this year.
I mean, the NFL is not going to do anything until after the court proceedings are done. From what I've seen, it looks like that's delayed again until November, like the 9th, I think is the last date that I saw on that. This thing's been delayed multiple times already. It's one of those that it wouldn't surprise me to see that delayed yet again. Again, not a lawyer, had no legal advice in all of that, but I think I'm there.
Look at the last one. Skip down the last one. I offered Mixon and Amon-Ra St. Brown for Kamara and Sutton or DK. Yes. That's what you do.
Yep. And I would try and, it's one of those that I would probably try and hang on to the DK side of that and give up Sutton on that, just from the standpoint that when DK comes back, I'm going to be going towards the heart of playoffs there. And I've now got all the firepower I need at the wide receiver position to do that.
Cosign. I like that one the most. Out of all the options that you've given us, I would give up Kamara and Sutton for Mixon and St. Brown. Absolutely.
Yep. So there you go. That's how we would both go at that. That's the winning trade right there. All righty, guys. That is going to do it for us. And Bronson wondering when y'all are gonna be live again. Absolutely, Bronson. We are gonna be live. We go live Tuesday nights, 11 p.m. Eastern, Friday nights, 11 p.m. Eastern during the season, and then during the off season, we are live every Tuesday night, 11 p.m. Eastern, out there. So that's gonna do it for us. He's Kevin. I'm Derek. Be sure to subscribe over there on the YouTube, Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel. And then you can find us on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at Good Old Boys FF. Again, he's Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a good one.